I saw that like that Subway takes guy. He said that like Kamala Harris apparently, and like when the presidential run was happening, I think they requested to be like on the show, and I think they had
Oh
like a test
yeah.
run, and they actually he didn't.
Oh yeah, I think I saw something about that. Yeah. I could think because her hot take wasn't really a hot take or something. I even forgot. I feel like it was clothes related or something, or I don't know. I can't remember what it was, but I was like, oh yeah, that's not. Come on, Kamal.
The one thing I remember her saying that was cool was like the coconut tree thing, but she just genuinely just says random ass things. But
Yeah.
anyway, Jean Marie, thank you
Yes.
for coming on to Sitting with Sam.
Well, yes, you
It,
finally did it. I was gonna say, I remember during school, like you talk about your podcast, guys. It's your podcast, and now it's here.
it's fun though. I think looking back that I started it in college for a little bit for a couple episodes. Cause like even now I'm like not recording like every day. You know, like some creators are like
Yeah.
I need to record every day. But for me, it's like I'm glad that I just started, and I feel like I'm gonna keep doing it, and I'm not gonna exhaust myself right at the beginning. But I like also what I told you like when we were preparing for it. It was like I don't even want it to be like this. Like I have slides or something. It's just
Yeah.
a conversation.
Just it's
Sitting
not
with
like
Sam,
that.
baby. Yeah. You look
We're
good, by the
good.
way. I love the look you have going on. I love your
Thank
glasses.
you. Thank you. They're new ish.
Newish.
I'm due for a new pair this year,
Me
this fall.
too. Wait, you
So,
got them as like because you were due for a new pair, or you were due for a new pair now?
well, yeah, I got these. I don't even remember when, sometime this year. But through my insurance, you get like each year you can get like a pair of frames that's like
Really?
covered covered through your
Mm.
insurance, whatever amount they give you for frames. So I always, each year I go and look and see what frames they have. If not,
Okay.
just cheap online store.
Yeah, but I'm scared of like, what if they don't fit? It's like the same problem I have with like buying. Actually, buying clothes online isn't that big of a deal.
Oh, well, yeah, yes.
But I always have the fear of like, what if it doesn't fit, and then like sending it back. It's like
Yeah,
such a hassle.
it's not fun. I guess like most glasses are either like one size or they have like a size. And I always get the ones that have like
Those
adjustable
things.
nose
Yeah.
pads. Yeah, so that way like it can it won't slide down a lot. I feel like I have that with the ones that
Slip
are
and slide.
just fixed. Yeah.
Jory, how's New York like compared to Detroit? I guess because we both know Detroit a little bit, or you know better than me. But like since we both lived there, or how's it? Yeah, compared to anywhere else you might have lived.
Um well, I've only lived in Michigan, in Detroit suburb. But compared to New York, I've always told people like it feels pretty similar in a way where it's like metropolitan city environment. Like I feel like culturally there's a lot of like for native New Yorkers there's a lot of like
Mm.
strong pride in like one's like city. There's kind of like a similar like hustle culture. Obviously, I think the main difference is that New York is just more densely populated than Detroit. So there's just a lot more people. And because like it is known as like a kind of place where like a lot of immigrants would come through. So there's I think there's just a lot
Mm.
more like melting pot here than Detroit. Like Detroit definitely has its multiculturalness, but I think just the makeup is different just because of where it's placed. So I feel like here there's like a lot, especially for me, because like I'm black, so just like in terms of that demographic, there's a lot more like island
Mm,
and
okay.
Caribbean people here. Whereas in Detroit, I feel like that's not as like super dominant or prevalent in Detroit. So that's been like really fun and interesting, especially like in a club or a celebratory aspect, there's a lot of like DJs that like will blend in a lot of like Afro beats and Caribbean influences into their sets versus like if I'm in Detroit, it's a lot more like R&B and like hip hop and that kind of like influence. So I feel like that's like a difference. And then public transit as opposed to like everyone like knows how to drive and has their own car type
How is the public transit in New
deal.
York? Like I've been as a visitor like 2 or 3 times, but it's been a while, and I feel like it's not the same as if you actually live there.
I like it. I like that like I don't know. It's I feel like it's a mixed bag. Like as one that's not been used to using public transit on a daily basis, I find that it's fun being able to like have like encounters with like people that I might otherwise like never ever like meet or see. And that's a mixed bag in itself. It might be fun like, oh, like I drop my things and someone's helping me pick them up and we're like, oh hey, or like someone notices like your bag and you might have a conversation about that. Like I have my analog tag, like sometimes I bring around my cassette player and there's always some middle-aged person, they're like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen that in like 20 30 years, and they like go off in a reminiscence about that time. So I find that to be like really fun. And but then there's like not fun things that happen, like shoving, pushing, someone's getting into a fight, like maybe you're like, so I feel like there's like similarities and differences. I think the thing I miss the most, I tell people like I miss driving. I think I miss the experience of like you piling into car, like you're playing your music in the car and like singing out
Yeah.
loud. It's not really something I at least personally do on public transit. It's just like it's a different like kind of energy in terms of like how you get
Have you
to and
had your
from.
like have you had your like cry on the sidewalk while other people walk by moment? Like I feel like I've been reading about that. How it's like a
Oh
very New
yes.
York thing. You just cry and
I've
nobody gives a
had
shit.
yeah, I've had my own moments of like I'm either like having a panic attack or I'm crying like something not fun happened at work or in life and I have to like go home and I have to be on public
Nobody cares.
transit around everyone else while I'm it's like a I
Hmm.
feel like at least from my perspective when I've seen other people in that space too, it's like a oh man, like they're all clearly going through something and there's like a, oh man, like I can't imagine like
Yeah.
what it is. There's like a kind of like sympathy in that aspect, but it's like I'm not gonna be like hey what's going on, like like unless like someone's like
Yeah, in need of something.
physically hurt or like they fell like and they need like someone to step in. But other than that, I feel like it's very much I hear a lot. It's like the mind your business like culture. It's just like you honestly just don't know what will happen
Yeah.
when you initiate an interaction with someone. So you just like if you do, you just have to be prepared for any and everything. But yeah, I think it's like less not that I don't care, but it's like I'm like observing, seeing. If I need to do something, I will, but I want to respect other
I
people's
think that's fair.
space.
Zooming out, I wanted to touch a little bit on like your faith journey and your identity with all that. Just because
Yeah,
for who maybe there's someone watching who
yeah,
doesn't know us. But like we met in college and we actually, in design
yes,
school and art school, whatever. And we actually, you, me, and like two other
yes,
people, friends of ours, started this like Christian design account. So like we were really like we were like in the
yeah,
faith. We were going to crew. We were participating, in
yes,
the like student community, Christian community in the city. And I think that was also like a big part of our like friendship, I would say, like, or at least it was like something we could bond over, or talk over. Um, how like looking at your life now, looking at Jean Marie now versus like 5 years ago versus like I'm especially reminded of like the COVID summer when especially I think you and I were hanging out a lot, like Ben and
Yeah.
Elizabeth and I. Um, but like yeah, how has your relationship with faith changed? Maybe what was it initially? How would you describe maybe growing up in the context of like of the faith, and how what made you become who you are now?
Hi, Sheba. My roommate's
Oh, is that a
cat
cat?
is,
Can you
yes,
bring her to the
is,
room?
she's,
Does she hate
cute.
people?
No, she loves people. She loves attention, and when she doesn't get it, she has a fit. Say hello.
Oh, oh my God, she's beautiful.
I know. She probably got into something and something fell. Um, but yeah, I guess like for context, like I personally like grew up in like Christianity. Like
Mm.
both my parents were in that, and they like raised us in that space. So for me, I'm coming from it like that's like what I've known throughout life growing up. And I guess like I personally have always like I've enjoyed like any I guess like activities or being a part of that community, like my home church growing up, like always went on Sundays to church. Like we had like a pretty big like youth program. So
Mm-hmm.
like I was always super excited to see my friends and like hang out and do all of those things. And you know, I learned about crew actually through that space, like in high school, maybe like senior year, like our guy that's like I don't know, I guess like in charge of one of the like children's like departments at our church was
Mm-hmm.
in crew himself in school, and they're like, oh, like hey, let's go to like one of their little like it literally was a barbecue that's like so crew, if like people don't know, it's like a Christian campus org. um and so we went to that event. I was like, oh, this seems cool. And they're like, yeah, like they have this like in college, so if you're like looking for something like when you go off to school, like this is like a thing that might be available to you, and just to like meet the Detroit crew community. I was like, oh, this seems like really interesting. Like I kind of will have a space or something like that when I go off to school, because that was something that was important to me as a way, like, you know, when you go to college, like you may or may not know people when you go, and like
Mm-hmm.
making friends is
That's
like
scary.
kind of a big part of your like social life the first year of school. So I get to, so like fast forward to like college. I'm like, okay, like I'm look out and see like if there's like crew, like see if it's there. And it was. I was like, okay, yay, great. Like gonna like be in that and just like see how that goes. And I believe I like literally actually did meet you like at one of our tables that we had
I
set
think
up.
so.
Yeah.
You recruited me.
Um, yeah.
I honestly I think it was like you and Amelia Rista. I think
Maybe.
it was like outside the Ford building, like
Yeah. Because I remember, I think, because it was, I think you were with Fabrizio. I don't know if you
oh
remember.
yeah, maybe.
Remember
I
him?
think it was
Yeah.
during like the like taco stand situation,
Yeah. Something
some stuff,
outside. So,
you know.
so yeah, I remember that. And then I guess, so like, I feel like first year is like, that's really great. Like, got this community. And then I feel like a major shift happened for me was actually COVID, in that COVID
Mm-hmm.
summer. You know, a lot of things became, you know, like locked down, like we're not going outside, we're not like socially gathering, and so that also in turn like affected like the church space and
Yeah.
communities. Like we can't all gather because COVID. And so my kind of like routine of like going to church on Sunday every week or showing up to like a Bible study every week kind of just stopped. And I feel like during that period really made me reflect
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, okay, like what is church like really about? What
Mm-hmm.
does it mean to me? And like, what are some things that like I may have already been like thinking about and grappling with that maybe I don't like. I think the big thing for me was church for me has always been like a space to like commune with other people and to like really like build community and like social relationships with other people, but even more importantly, like it's always been about like me and my relationship or whatever with God. Like it's always like me and God, like, or it's a space for me to come and reflect, refresh, and like reset. Because I think a lot of times, like, your week can happen, shit happens in your life, shit happens at work, and you're just like, oh my God. And then sometimes, like, you need someone to come and be like, hey, like, it's not, it's life is not over, or just, or something to that degree. So I always, like, found a lot of, like, peace or solace in, like, having that time to, like, reflect, and a lot of that comes through music too for me. That was like more of a bigger aspect, and so when I thought about, okay, like this is what it means for me, this is what I like, this is what I value, I started to like look at the church spaces that I were a part of and didn't really feel like that was really the center. I feel like, especially coming in the context of like in terms of denomination, like non-denominational church spaces.
And how would you describe, like, real quick, the church that you kind of grew up in? You said non-denominational, but
yeah, the one I grew up in was like that, and then like in college, like pretty much the same. Like I feel like they're a part of that like kind of branch or category, if you will. I think, let me think. In college, I would say like I guess my main like gripe was like it felt like there was a lot of like either like focus on like the social aspects, like hey, like come, we're gonna do all these like fun cool events and things, which is really great, but I'm like, I'm also like not here to you're gonna have to go if you're gonna be in the way. Sorry, she's like stopping, she's playing with the string and it's stopping the recording.
she wants this not to happen.
But yeah, I would look at the church that I was at and it's like, okay, like this is really great that people really want to like build relationships with each other, but for me it was really important to like actually like study or look at the Bible and like what it's saying and like what do we think about it, and really have like those kind of conversations. And then even throughout like the typical service in and of itself, like I feel like there are some spaces where it feels very production heavy or very like I feel like I'm being advertised at or marketed to, and that was like just a major ick for me. And I'm just like, I don't love this. Like I'm not here to like buy some merch, or like I'm not here to like, you know, look great for like a social media post. And like I feel like in a way in that branch of Christianity kind of like lost the plot a little bit.
It was like too modern, maybe. Was it too modern? Was it too like involved, trying to be like
I don't think that it's the fact that it's modern. I think that like to some degree, like there's just a lot of focus on like really trying to repair, I think, the image of Christianity and the church to the general public, because I think some people might have a very like somewhat like traditional view where it's like, oh, like church is like stuffy and boring, or like I sit there, I kneel on a like bench and like I sing hymns, and we're like, oh, like nowadays like people, that's not cool, that's not fun. Like, so I think in turn they were like, oh, like let's make it look fun, let's make it look cool, exciting, so that we can like bring in and attract people that maybe aren't a part of this already, so that it feels like a space that they can enter into, which I think like the intent, the heart intention is not necessarily bad there, but for people to that like, you know, are already in it, it feels a little bit, I don't know, at least to me it felt a little, it's like I'm
Too much
not really
outreach.
here. Yeah, I'm not really here for that. And my also, other gripe is like I think a lot of spaces like to say or posit like, hey, like, you know, we're like in this world but like not of it.
Of
But
this
yet
world.
we like we're not, but yet utilizing a lot of like worldly tactics like marketing. When I feel like once we start getting into those things like
That's juicy.
marketing, what are we gonna post on social media, like how are we going to um fundraise to like pay rent or whatever for the building and space itself. And I think in those things can really easily get lost and forget like what this
While
is
you're there.
supposed to be
Yeah.
about. Like I think back to like early churches that are described in the Bible and it's like in someone's home. Like they it's not like 100 or it's not like hundreds of people gathering in this building. It's like very community, very local, very in like someone's home. There isn't a big song and dance. So for me, that was like a big realization during COVID. I'm like, okay, like I want to find a space where it's not a mega church. It's not like so many thousands of people or hundreds of people. I can actually feel like I have relationships with people in the space that I'm at, and that like I can actually come here and know that like the main focus is God. Which you would think like that would be it. But just like I think also like the contextual space I come from, like my mom like works in our like home church like as a children's director. So you like I see and like hear about a lot of like which you might call like office politics within the church space. And like
Yeah.
that that also like kind of I think influences and affects like some of the like gripes I have with things. Like I know kind of like behind the scenes like conversations that are happening like when people are discussing, oh, like what songs are we gonna play this week, like, oh, we can't do that song. It's just like things like that. And like why are these like issues or problems that people are having, and like aren't we here to just like just be
Praise
in
the Lord.
like exactly. So that was like kind of like a big, I feel like a shift for me, like, and then coming out of COVID back into a space where like we're starting to gather again, like I noticed like, oh, like I'm not going like every Sunday, or like I'm not doing that anymore. Because it was like I haven't found a space where I feel like I want to go to every week. And then I think that then like kind of in terms of like college and the campus ministry, I think I started looking at that as well. The like latter, I think last year, second to last year of school, really looking at like crew and like what is crew all about and what
It
where
used to be
I'm at,
Campus
like
Crusades, right? Campus
yeah,
Crusades. They had to
yeah,
like reimagine their branding, which is kind of
yeah.
funny.
Which is actually interesting that like you'd say like thinking about rebranding, because when I thought about it, I think well after like graduating, I was like, the things that we did during school were like T for T the same things that I did when I first like met them and like did things with them in high school. Like we do these little surveys that you'd hand out to like students, and like this is the same little survey that I handed out to college students when I was in high school on a trip like visiting with the group. And like it hasn't changed. And I was like, that's the course of like 5 years. And then like I think for me, it was just like I think there's a lot of focus on like numbers, and that's like another like word that I like have is like very much focused on like, okay, yeah, like how many people are we talking to, like how many people like said yes, or like how many people like accepted Christ. And like that's really great,
It's
but
very like
it felt
bureaucratic.
like, yeah, it felt a bit, the focus for me felt a little bit too much like on numbers, 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 and less on like actual relationships being built with people. And I think Detroit Cruise specifically like had its own like kind of uniqueness in a way where it's like multiple college campuses coming together,
Yeah.
whereas in a general instance it's usually just at one college campus. And for me specifically with CCS, I was like, okay, like we're not like an average college campus. Yeah. It's an art school. It's a private art school. So the setup and makeup of students there is different as opposed to like a normal or regular like liberal arts school. Like our focuses are different, like our career outlooks are a bit different. The way that we're going through day-to-day school life is very different. And it didn't really seem that like that was really being taken into account. Like it's like, hey, like here's this like handy dandy 4-step plan that you use to like talk to people, and it didn't really feel organic or natural. It felt very like robotic and scripted, and I'm like, does anyone actually want to like do this? Isn't like, who wants to fill out a survey nowadays? Like, no,
Yeah.
no one wants to do that. And then on top of that, like texting people that you don't know, just like invite them to things, and people don't want texts from unknown numbers. And again, it's like, I feel like there's this idea of like, hey, this whole big idea, hey, like we're meeting people where they're at, but it's like, were we really, especially like at our own campus? Like, you know, you have a lot of art students, you have a lot of people that come from different spaces, might be in a queer space, or it might be just like in a non-faith space. And to me, it was just like, hey, like instead of like, let me go through this like little script, like can it be about like, hey, like how are you like doing? Are you settling into school? Like what are your courses like? And like what do you need? Like more of that aspect. I think for me,
More individual.
Yeah, I feel like for me, my faith outlook has been very much that, you know, like it's very personal, it's very individual, it's very about you and your relationship with the faith or with God. Because at the end of the day, that it's just you. Like it's not gonna be like what so and so did, or like what someone else is doing. It's just about what have you done in your life, or like where are you at? Like it's not about anyone else but yourself. And for me, it's like always about like, okay, like how can I like live a life that like is seemingly or in line with Christianity. And for me, that's always about like loving people and loving God. Like I feel like that kind of gets paused a lot, and I do resonate with that because I'm just like, that's all there really is to it. And for me, like, what does that practically like look like? And it's just like, yeah, like everyone's got finals coming up and everyone's stressed, and like the way that we stress about finals is not the same as someone that's like preparing for an exam. So it's like, how can I like be of help to someone, or how can I do something nice for someone, just cause like I want to be loving and nice to other people. And I feel like there wasn't like too much of it, or if it was that, but there was like this whole like, okay, we're doing this and like trying to get people to come. But it's like, why can't we just do the nice thing with no like expectation or wanting
It was like
to
a bait
like
and
get
a hook.
people. Yeah, like just I don't know. So I feel like that was kind of like, I came to that the last year of school, and I was like, you know what, this is not really it. I'm not really about this. Like I don't like the focus. And then
Was it
also,
doctrinal differences too? Like, did you start seeing things that like stopped making sense to you from like a biblical kind of perspective, or was it just because I'm hearing a lot of like practical things where maybe it wasn't
yeah.
mission aligned, it wasn't like aligned with the Christianity that you had in mind. But did you also start maybe seeing some cracks like in the, let's say, dogma of Christianity?
Yeah, I think for me, I think like after school, I think a lot of like, how I put this, I think a lot of my, I don't know, realizations or
Mm,
like questions really come less from like, I guess, like finding like cracks or things that I like, I don't know, in like Christianity itself, and more or less like what do I like already like know or have like
mm,
grown up to believe, and like how am I seeing that manifests itself in my current day-to-day life. It's been more of a like passive activity, but I really find it's very interesting to see is like, okay, like yes, like you grew up believing this one thing. It's like how do I like practically see it in my day to day? I feel like a lot of
mm,
that has come through my own like, I guess like queer identity and like
mm,
neurodivergent identity, and more I'm like learning about that about myself. A lot of it has been interesting seeing the overlap between that and like Christianity or faith in general. Um or I guess like when it comes to like, I guess like gender identity for me
mm,
specifically, and I've been like navigating that and like coming to my own conclusions of identifying as a gender. And a lot of that comes from like this idea. I'm like, okay, there's this like phrase that we have a lot that's I think gets used in Christianity, like, you know, the body as like a vessel, or like, you know,
mm.
like we're just like a vessel. It's like in a sense like I kind of see that in a way where it's like, yes, like I have this physical form and shape, but for me there's like an idea, or like exploring the idea that like,
Mm.
you know, we have this like physical form and shape, but we also like have a soul or consciousness or some type of way of being a celestial being, for
I
lack
want to
of
touch on that.
better term. But for me, I'm like, okay, like, because it's like we get, I feel like inside our humanity, we grapple with this question, like, oh, well, what does it like mean to be a human? Like, where is the line between that? Is like, does my physical body define that? It's like, if
Mm,
I don't
mm.
have this like physical form, like, am I still like me? Like, where do I kind of like continue to exist in and out of that?
Okay,
And so for,
question
oh,
coming, question
no,
coming.
okay, okay.
uh, so, do you still see yourself as like as Christian, or because? And before you answer, like mm, it's like I'm asking this question, but I feel like it's low key a good question because I myself have this thing where when I'm like with my family, for instance, I can see the difference of like, okay, this is kind of how I grew up and how I used to believe things to be true and stuff like this. Um, so in those situations, I'm like, I'm not really a Christian anymore. But I also have this thing where I'm like, I'm not a Christian. Like the way I grew up is still a part of me, and like I still have a lot of the values and stuff. So when you talk about your journey and stuff, do you still at this moment? It sounds like you would still say like I mean, I can still say like, hey, I love Jesus. You know, I love the Lord and stuff. But how far would you go? Would you say to someone, "Oh yeah, I'm Christian," or like how would that work for you?
I guess it's something I think about now. I think like internally, like I would say like yes, and like, but I think where like it gets like layered or I guess complicated is like in the context of like talking about it with other people, because
Mm,
everyone has like their own like
yeah.
notions or like preconceptions of like what that means or what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I'm like, only I can really define that for
Mm,
myself. Like for me, I think I really have been coming to this idea, or like, and it's been like I feel like other people in this sphere or space have like talked about Christianity in this way, and where it's like the idea is that like it's like more like it's a relationship,
mm-hmm.
right? Like it's about like your relationship with God. And for me, like I resonate with that a lot, because in that line of thinking, it cuz it's like no one can tell you or you can tell anyone like whether they're a Christian or not. It's not really
Mm.
up to you to judge or like say like, oh well, they're not. Because like in that line of thinking, like through like biblically, it's like only like that's only gonna be between you and God. Like and then he's gonna decide like he because like the idea is that like he knows and sees everything and like knows your life and like what's truly like in your heart. Like no one can know like what's in your heart and how you feel and what you like truly believe but yourself. So for me, like I really lean into that idea of that like I have this relationship, for lack of a better term, whatever, and I'm just going to live my life trying to live into that in the best way possible. And and the other thing that I also resonate about that is like I don't quote me, maybe look up,
I'm gonna
but
quote you.
but I have like heard or learned that like the root or like linguistic meaning of Christian was that it was like what people called like people that like knew Christ or like followed him or this, I think it was like little Christ or something. So that in and of itself, it's like for me, I kind of grapple with this idea of where Christianity sits as like a religion or like is it that like for me like labels and terms and categories I feel start to begin to limit the nuances and expansiveness of things because these things are kind of intangible.
Hmm.
But I know that as humans we really love to like put things in a box and really understand it and like know it and like have something be very definitive. But it's like I feel like we're trying to take something that is like intangible, nuanced, and fluid and try and put it into something very rigid. And I don't
Okay.
really think that you can really do that. So I guess, yeah, it's long story short, I would say that I am. But the way that I bring it up with other people is more, I kind of like, I don't know. It's like kind of, it really depends on the person and the context
Hmm.
I'm talking to. I don't know.
Okay.
It seemed like you were gonna ask something or you were gonna interject. So I don't know.
Yeah, I have to. I mean, I have to interject. um, Something you said earlier that I wanted to go back to is like you were kind of pointing out that you didn't like when people put like Christianity into like this specific box, or like drawer. But okay, I would ask you like if would you not agree with the statement that like yeah, it's hard to define a Christian, but you normally you would be able to describe a Christian because they would have, or no, let me put it this way. To be a Christian, you would have to believe like at least two or maybe three things, like that that God exists and that Jesus was like the Son of God, and also that he died and rose from the dead. Like I
Yeah.
feel like those are historical things that like
Yeah.
if you're the type of Christian who's like, or if you're someone who who likes Christianity or something, or but who doesn't agree with those things, then it's like, do I even what does Christian even mean at that point?
Yeah, I don't know.
What are your thoughts about that?
That's where I feel like it's so like it's like so nuanced in a way because it's like
Mm.
yes, like at a core, like I feel like those would be like very like core fundamental things. Like I believe like God exists and that He used Jesus to exist on Earth and like died and rose again, and
You believe in the virgin birth? I have to
Virgin
ask the hard question.
Virgin Mary. Yeah, and I guess like how do I put
You do.
this? No, I'm trying to think like how would
Okay,
I
okay.
like how I word this. I guess for me, like I think, hmm,
Take your time.
no. um, like for me, I feel like I can like also like have those like core beliefs and still kind of be like, like that's really interesting. That's like crazy, like virgin birth. Like, whoa, like how was that possible? Um, and so for me, I feel like that kind of sits in a like space of like yes, like I'm gonna like take these things in, but I also don't really how to put this. I don't like use those things to like invalidate like other people's beliefs or thoughts or like questions. Like I'm not being like, oh my gosh, like yeah, this happened and you're wrong. Or like if someone tells me like, I don't know about that, I'm like, yeah, like it is kind of crazy. Like that's a very interesting thing to happen, and I didn't see it happen. I didn't know it, but all I'm going off of is this belief. And so for me, I kind of just like it's find it hard to describe, but like I like to sit in a space where like I can have these like beliefs, but still allow myself to like be open and question things, but not allow like my questioning things to like make me throw everything else like in the trash. Because like
Mm-hmm.
no one has all the answers, and I feel like for me, I find a lot of comfort in like knowing that I'm not gonna know the answer
Mm.
to everything, or I'm not going to have a definitive answer to everything. And that's, I think, fine. I don't know. But I think there's like, so I feel like there's like those like kind of core beliefs. And that's where I'm like, I don't know, is that what really defines like, I guess, like being, I guess, labeled as a Christian in a way? Or is it like, more or less in like, okay, like I'm gonna like I have this like book of like stories and poems and letters that describe and talk about the lifetime and era of Jesus and
Mm.
God, and like take what I'm like learning from there and try and practically apply it in my life. Like I also view that as like being Christian
Okay.
as well. So it's just like maybe it's like you're like, okay, yeah, like I'm like following this, and it's like God is real. He had a son, died and rose again. I may or may not be like, I don't know, but I can still also be like, I don't know, and still like look at other things, be like, I like
Mm-hmm.
this, or I'm like, I'm gonna try and live like this. And at the end of the day, if God's like, yeah, like you're chill, like then that's great. So for me, I'm like, I can't really know that
Okay.
until
You're okay not knowing. Yeah.
the end comes, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if that really answers that, but I kind
That's
of got
okay.
lost.
I was talking to someone this morning, or texting with someone this morning about like we both know like a person where like we were referencing a person without really mentioning them, but this person was essentially complaining to me about how this other person they're like very Christian, like they know the Bible so well, and
Mm,
but the way they behave is like not very Jesus like. And I feel like
yeah.
it's a really like that's a distinction I think that I also learned, because like a lot of the people I feel like that I grew up with, now looking back, remind me of like the Pharisees in the New Testament, where
Mm-hmm.
like they knew the law, they knew like they knew everything
Yes.
to the T, and they even like they criticized Jesus and stuff.
Like,
But the way they behaved was like, so it's when I'm just bringing this up to say like I do think like a Christian is someone who believes a certain like
yeah.
at least like two or three core ideas, but like to me as someone who's agnostic now, but I still consider myself a little like Christian-esque
Yeah.
maybe. It's more important how someone behaves. It's like, and
Yeah.
I in that conversation with my friend, I brought up this Bible verse that I think is really cool. Actually, it's like I think in Matthew, and it's like, "You shall know them by their fruits," and something
Yeah.
like a certain kind of
Yeah.
tree can't bring forth this other kind of fruit, and it's like that's kind of what it's all about. And I think Jesus at one point also is said to be, or said to have said, that like the two most important laws are like love God with all your heart, and then the second one
Yes.
is love your neighbor
This
as
was like
yourself. And that was his
love
thing.
God, love people. And that's what I was like, those are, if that's the main, if someone, like, that's what I'm saying, someone asks, like, okay, like, what I gotta do, what's the main thing, what's, like, what's if anything, what's anything, and that's like the
Yeah.
thing. And so I feel like that's where like I really lean into a lot. And I don't know, I feel like you said, like the actions do really matter, and like biblically it's talked about a lot. So I always find it really interesting, like when people posit themselves like as Christian, and then you have other actions, you're like, that's crazy. Like, how are you saying this and like doing this? But then that's where I said earlier is like, I can't really say or like judge this person on like how Christian they are, because I
Yeah.
don't really know what's like in their heart,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not me to judge. Like if you, unless you're in the camp where like yeah, I'm God. Like there are some people that view in that line, but like if
Yeah.
you're in the line of like God's God, then it's like it's really up to him. He's the one calling the shots. So I kind of like leave it at that. And I'm like, that's sad that like if someone is saying that they're Christian and doing things to me that feel not very Christian like, is more
Yeah.
like saddening to me. Because it's like that's where I'm like, yeah, I feel like in a lot of places like a lot of people have just like, I'm using this term like lost the plot. I'm like, how did we
Mm.
like get from here to like here? And very it's very interesting to look at. I think I was reading a post the other day about like culture. I see a lot of things about like, oh yeah, like white people don't have any culture, and they're like the culture and like all of their all the people, what do you call it, like the Celtics and like all of these people that like follow like pagan
Mm-hmm.
holidays and beliefs, like that kind of being somewhat eradicated like through Christianity. When the Crusades happening, a lot of things getting kind of Christianized. It's just like, I'm like, how I'm like how do we like get here and like use Christianity or the Bible to like weaponize or like to
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm like, how did that like come to be? And so for me, I have this like mindset like that applies to like objects, technology, whatever. I feel like a lot of the time we like to like place our blame and griefs and gripes with the object, unless the person
Mm.
using the object is like, yes, like you can have like your concerns, doubts, gripes with the Bible or Christianity or God in general. I think that's welcome, and
Oh, I
people
do.
do and have it. But it's just like, also I feel like I welcome that, but I
Mm-hmm.
feel like what people kind of just don't do or like forget about is like, what about the actual people that are like doing the terrible thing? Because it's like
Yeah.
the Bible just didn't like get up, walk, and go around town and be like "Grr, grr, grr," and kill people. It's like people did that, humans did that. So just like I want there to be like critique like on both sides, like, hey, it's like there are people that are utilizing these things to do
Mm.
not great things, and to look
Counterpoint.
internally. And so that's just, like, I feel like there are better and productive conversations that
Okay.
come from that. I don't know.
Counterpoint. I have to
Okay.
interject.
Okay. Interject.
um, I once wrote this like Substack thing, like I don't know, like a
Oh my
year and a
god.
half ago.
Oh wait. Oh sorry.
Uh,
I
no,
thought it
go
was
ahead.
a recording, and it was. It is. It's fine.
Okay, it is okay. Okay, phew. I would have like
I know.
killed you through the screen.
I know.
I know. I feel like, or I'm gonna say that I think I know. You don't take the Bible like very literally, right? You just like you have your things you
No.
like, you have your things you don't like.
I think,
Yeah,
yeah, context. There's a lot of things that
context.
matter. There's a
Sure,
lot of things. Sure.
there's a lot of
Okay.
things. Let's talk about some of the things. Let's talk about some of the things. Something for me, like when I was deconstructing, like, and I've mentioned this before, like on my channel, but like, it felt like Christianity was like this bubble that
Yeah.
once like a hole that I poked was big enough, it like the whole thing kind of popped. And
Mm-mm.
one of the things for me was like, because I grew up like very literalist. This is kind of like the way I grew up
Okay.
to understand the Bible.
Okay.
And so understandably, like, like with that worldview and with like, being taught that like, oh no, like literally the earth was created in 6 days. And there was like very little room for
Yeah.
interpretation, for poetry. But still, I mean, there is a lot of, I think, in the Bible that would, I understand why people will take it very literally, because it has certain things that it says. Like, for instance, like it says that God is the same today, yesterday, and like tomorrow or in all eternity.
Mm-hmm.
And taking that, and then also taking like the God that is sometimes presented in like the Old Testament,
Mm-hmm.
but then also understanding maybe how Jesus changed how God presented himself or something. It was very almost, this almost fell.
Oh.
Um, it was very confusing to me because I
Yeah.
would read passages and I could pull up my Substack, but maybe I'll like blend them in. But there's verses in the Old Testament where like God commands the people of
Mm-hmm.
Israel to like genocide a whole people. Basically, he doesn't say genocide them, but he says like kill
Right.
them, kill the women, the children, like.
Right.
And it's not just like one passage or like two passages. Um, but to me, it was always like, and I also know like the things that Christians will then say. And I'm not saying you, I'm just saying like in a lot of conversations, people would then be like, yeah, but that was like the old law. And it was like with the Jewish people, it wasn't like Christianity. But it just seems, I mean, now I kind of have the way I'm making sense, like, or that's a confusing sentence. Now I have like ways in which that makes sense to me because I can like, I see the Bible as like, okay, yeah, it was written over a long period of time by different people who, they were real people, so they had like real circumstances, and
Right.
they had like a real theology, and they were like interpreting things in ways, and I see it as this very like man-made thing that was like stitched
Yeah.
together, and it's like, it's very impressive, the Bible, because it's like it has this narrative, or it has multiple narratives that do kind of work together and like create something very unique. But like it does seem very obvious to me that if you take the Bible like literally, or even super seriously and not super literally, um, I just run into so many issues where I'm like, how can this God also claim to be like perfect and all loving and all powerful and like, and now I don't even know what question I'm asking. Now I'm just, but
But no, I think unless you have your
yeah,
thoughts. No, I think I guess like when it comes to that, I guess like for me like no, I feel like I was saying before, like there's a lot of like there's a lot of like context that matters. I think for me like I'm always thinking about like or at least like the school of thought that like I grew up through, there's like a lot
mm,
of emphasis on like understanding the Bible also through like kind of like a literary like context, like the way that we
mm,
like read books or like consume media, like there's an author, there's someone that's writing, it's like who is that person, like where are they coming from, like what kind of space and like agenda are they coming from, and
yeah,
like when they're writing, like who are they writing to, like who is it for, why are they doing it, and like all of those things like add meaning and context to what's being written. And then it's like you have to do that contextualization and then recontextualization like into like your current day self. So like I'm a 25-year-old black person in New York in America in
America.
2025. And I have a vastly different life circumstance than someone living wherever over in the Eastern Hemisphere way back when.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for me, that's where it's, yeah, I don't really come at the angle of like a very literal sense. And I think when you kind of open that up, like, it just, I feel like, again, like it's allowing like more like nuance and things and
Mm-hmm.
happen, allows you to ask questions. And I think people are like afraid to ask questions or like think that there's like something wrong with that, or if you like ask or like dissect like it's like the end of the world. And which I think, honestly, I think from like within the Christian space and spirit is really crazy, because like you have people literally in the Bible that do also wrestle with and grapple with things, or like lament, or like get angry about certain things. And just like, I feel like all of those things are natural and normal to experience and
Mm-hmm.
have. So for me, I'm like, I never really like discount that within myself or like other people. I think those are fair things to do. And for me, it's like, I don't know.
But it doesn't lead you away from it.
It doesn't
It's like
like,
you leave it open, and that's okay.
yeah, that's, I
Okay.
think that's always been like the case for me. Like I would
Mm-hmm.
tell like, my dad is very much in this kind of space. Like anytime I come home, he's like, "How are you doing? Like, how's life? Like, how's your spiritual life? What's going on?" And I think I've always like told him, it's like, yeah, like no matter like what I experience or like navigate or go through, like I'm always like wanting to question things,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not just gonna like, I guess like throw just everything in the trash. It doesn't like just
Mm-hmm.
go
The
away.
baby with the bathwater. Yeah. I love that
Yeah.
saying.
This is like, so I find that to be really interesting, because
Mm-hmm.
it's like, as I was mentioning before, that kind of having this like passive activity of like whether it's a book I'm reading or something I'm learning about my gender identity, and like how that like overlaps with what I already believe like through my faith. I find those like things to be like things that I like hold on to, and like, okay, wait, this actually like connects, or this makes sense to me in a certain
Mm-hmm.
way. And just to kind of like, I feel like life is will just be a continuation of that until I no longer have physical life here, and what else ever after. um and
What do
I
you think?
find that to be
Yeah.
really interesting. I don't know.
Sorry, I keep interrupting you.
No, you're fine.
But there's so many interesting things you bring up, and I want to ask like follow-up questions.
Okay.
Um, you speaking of like dying, basically, and you mentioned earlier like the soul consciousness.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Because I never know what to think about that. I have my thoughts about consciousness and stuff. I used to believe in souls. I no longer positively believe in them, but I also don't know if I'm not sure if they do or don't exist. But I at this point I don't know what a soul actually would be, because
Yeah.
like oftentimes like you did earlier, people kind of pair the two things like, oh, the consciousness slash the soul. But like I know what consciousness is. It's like my awareness right now, my point of view, like, you know, the awareness that is Sam, or you know, I guess the identity is attached to my consciousness, whatever. But I'm aware of this physical and
Yeah.
mental spiel that is happening right now. But like when people talk about the soul, it's interesting because all of a sudden we have like another thing that doesn't necessarily have to be there for my current worldview to make sense, if that makes sense. But I think the Christian worldview, or many theistic worldviews, but also, and now that we're in the Christian worldview, actually it requires a soul, because, or at least it requires like consciousness to be something like the soul, because obviously there's an afterlife. And so what do you think about that? do you
No,
do you believe in the
I
soul? How is it different from consciousness?
I don't really know that I like have a definitive like, I guess like differentiation or idea about
Mm-hmm.
it. I think it's something that I'm still like thinking about, or like, I guess like experiencing. I guess like it started coming up. I don't remember the book name. I'll have to look it up and send it to you if
Okay.
necessary. But I remember reading this book, and it's kind of like a autobiographical fiction type book. And the main character, like, she's like going through like normal life stuff, but there's this idea like of these like different, I don't know if it's like a spirit or soul, and like in the way like she shifts through different phases of her life.
Mm.
Like you see like these like there's like a inner conversation happening between these different souls or spirits. And to me, and then also like as I'm reading too about like just like gender and like what that looks like, exploring that outside of our binariness and whatever. Like it makes me like start to think more like okay, yes, like I have this physical body where it is female, and that means certain things in like a societal context of like what type of clothes I should wear, how I should talk, what things I'm interested in or into. And but like obviously not feeling like that or feeling like any internal connection to that. And so for me, I'm like, okay, like I have to exist in this physical body, but I feel some kind of discord with it through how society is expecting me to show up and present. And so for me, I'm like, okay, like, is my body like all that I am? Like, is there like something more internal or something like within? And I guess I also, in a more like biblical sense, like I think about, I don't remember where, I feel like I want to say it's definitely like, I think it's in the New Testament, but when they talk about like heaven or like going towards that, there's like this part that talks about like how like, you know, you'll have new bodies, like you'll have new name and like and etc etc. And so for me, like if I'm thinking about it in that way, and like that's where the overlap kind of comes for me. It's like, okay, yes, like I was just kind of given this, born into this physical body here, but if I am to go down the line of thought where like I will no longer have this body, then that means to me that is there's something beyond like this physical body that I have. And so for me, I'm like, okay, like, yeah, so I feel like that in and of itself frees me in a way, gender wise, to be like, okay, like, yeah, like, sure, like, I got this to work with, but that doesn't define like who I am, like, as a person. And I feel like the way, and then I see like kind of correlation with like technology and the way that we're going, like, with AI and like automated like machinery and robots and like our relationship towards that and with it, and seeing a lot of like film or media that explores like the idea of like uploading our brain into like the cloud and X, Y, and Z, which is why I really recommended watching Pantheon, because it does explore that a lot. And it's just like, okay, so it's like, yeah, like I feel like we will start to like grapple that question of like, what is it, like, what, who are we as like a person or a being? Like, if it's not in this physical form, like, what does that mean, or what does that look like? Because there's a lot of like violence or negativity towards the idea of like one uploading their brain to machine, like, it's not them anymore. It's like, is it not them? Is it not them because they're not in their physical body anymore? And so I guess like in terms of like soul conscious, I'm not really sure like if there is a difference, if we have one, like what does that mean? But like, I don't know, I feel like the way that there is like some type of intangibleness within us, to me suggests that there's like something there beyond like what we can like either comprehend or like actually put words or language to. So for me, it's kind of like an open-ended like discovery, or like I'm still like kind of taking in things that I'm like reading or seeing, like, oh, like that's like interesting way to like think about it or like look at it. Yeah. And I don't know. Yeah, I know.
I like that. You were like a little laggy towards the end. That's why maybe I was
Oh,
like pausing.
oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
if I was just staring at you, because the video was catching up.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
um. By the way, bringing up Pantheon, I still haven't finished season 2, but
You,
it's
you
so good.
It's amazing. I
Yeah.
feel like there's like so much to that.
It's so deep. It's so it does bring me and at this point we're just like speculating, but it's the podcast. But like I've always had this or not always, but I feel like I have this intuition, which doesn't mean much in this conversation, but like neuroscience today just can basically dissect the brain and like look at like the neurons firing and shit like that, and those are all like material physical processes, right? And I think a lot of people, a lot of like sciencey people, assume that like the brain is producing consciousness. Okay, then there's like other, I think, theories or viewpoints that kind of posit like that would kind of be physicalism or materialism, but in that viewpoint also consciousness itself is a material thing, and to me that's kind of doesn't make any sense. Then there's
Yeah.
like the polar opposite view. It's called like idealism, where everything is consciousness and like the physical world is just kind of a manifestation of consciousness of like the immaterial. So like not like simulation, but like kind
Yeah.
of, where like consciousness is kind of prior to that. But I think like with Pantheon in mind and everything, I feel like there's more to consciousness than just being in contact with the brain. Like obviously the brain has
Right.
something to do with it. It gives rise to it maybe. But I feel like we have stuff stored in our bodies or something. Because you mentioned
Yeah.
earlier, like, are we our bodies or something? I feel like that's a really interesting question too. And it's hard to say where the identity really lies, if it's just like
Yeah.
the brain or the awareness of it. But in some ways, I mean, sometimes I'm like I feel like I'm operating my body, or like I have someone sitting in my head and like I'm just wearing this body. But then other times I'm
Right.
like, no, I feel like if my body was different, like I would feel different and therefore I would be different. And so it's weird. It's like this,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's just like it's like how do you like view it and interpret it and
Mm-hmm.
experience it? 'Cause it's like, and that's my thing where I'm like, that's why I like never really like this idea of like trying to like, I don't know, invalidate other people or like try and
Mm-hmm.
find like a definitive like answer to something, because at least to my feelings, I feel like we all are going to experience and navigate the world differently. That's just like, it's just going to happen. Like, we're a different person, a different body, in different space, different life experiences. Like, this is like
Mm-hmm.
known sciencely. Like, you can both look at a color and see two different
Mm-hmm.
colors. So how would you know
That's
like
insane.
what is the like true like color?
What I see.
Um yes. So it's just like for me, I'm like, it's like, yeah, so like, yeah, you could like have a different form and then feel different or like look different, because it's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you are in a new form. But it's like, so it's like, yeah, it's like how like where is that like innerness thing that is you? But like, so for me, I'm just like, yeah, I don't, that's why I'm like, there's like, I think at least it leads me to think or question like what is it, or like what more is there
Mm-hmm.
to these things. And that's where I feel like where there is space for like openness, there is like space for something. um I don't know, I don't really have much
No,
more
that's
to it,
good.
but I'm very curious to see like how much more exponentially we grow with technology, and if we will start to
Mm-hmm.
like come to these conversations more. And I don't know, we actually just had like, there was this company, they bought out mass marketing in the transit system for this companion AI that you wear called, I think the company's called like Friend or like friend.com. Like, I don't know if you like
Mm.
seen it or heard
Oh,
about
I
it.
think I saw that.
But yeah, it's like a little companion that you wear. It's like a some type of AI model, and it's can like talk with it and chat with it. and people were very violent in their response to it, and like graffitiing over everything and be like, oh, like real make real friends, or like friends don't let friends like get this, or like this, like just kind of this like attack on it being like a computer and not a real person. And it just like makes me think like, how will we like navigate this idea of like anything beyond like a physical human form is
Yeah.
just not real or being fake. Like I feel like that's like just kind of the mindset generally people have, which is very, I don't know, and like there's a lot of layers to that in its own category, but like it's like, I don't know, like it just like makes me think about like, what do we think like the actual person is, like what constitutes as real and not
Yeah.
real.
I have two more questions before I think
Okay, yes.
we can wrap up
Okay.
slowly.
Fire away.
Mostly because it's like almost 2:30 a.m. here.
Oh my gosh, wait, yes. I'm so
No,
sorry.
but you I don't accept your apology because you have no reason to apologize. Um
Fair.
Question number 1 and question number 2 are going to be like back to back, and you can decide
Okay.
what you want to answer first or whatever. Recently there was like this Rapture talk
Oh
situation.
my god, yeah.
Have you seen that? Okay, so this wasn't the question.
Lightly.
But so do you believe the rapture is going to happen? And a different question, but I was talking to like a coworker about this the other day. He's also Christian, and I was like, "Do you believe in aliens?" And he was like, "There's probably aliens." And then I was like, "If aliens actually existed, like let's say, and they came to Earth, or they didn't come to Earth, it doesn't really make sense or matter. But since Jesus is true in the worldview of Christianity, or since Jesus like is like a real dude, and like, does it apply to the aliens? Like, do they have like, or because it just didn't happen on their planet, it doesn't matter to them? Or does that question even make
Yeah.
sense?
No, I get what you're saying. Okay, there's a lot of things to that.
Yeah.
I think again, like lots of layers. I think to the question about rapture,
Hmm.
um, again, like I don't really, how do I put this? I'd like to believe that like to a like low level degree at some point, like the idea of like him coming back and like Earth is obliterated and whatever happens after that, don't know. But for me, again, I feel like it comes into that kind of like literal like conversation again. So I feel like even with that book of Revelation in general, I feel like I don't really know what rapture like actually practically means. I feel like we have this idea of like we get shot up into the heavens, or whatever that looks like, but I feel like there's just no really real way to like
Hmm.
fathom what that will actually be and look like here.
Hmm.
I don't know what that means, what physically will happen, like, and I don't necessarily want to like try and figure that out per
Hmm.
se. I think I'm under the notion I really resonate with that or with that part of writing where it's like you're not gonna know the day, you're not gonna. That's why it always cracks me up when there's ever like the Earth is ending, or the end is coming, or the rapture's coming, and people know when it is. And like it, if you're, it literally says in there you're not gonna know when. So that always like cracks me up because I'm just like, you're not gonna know the day, you're not gonna know the time, you're not gonna win. So for me, I'm like, I'm not even gonna know that. Then
Hmm.
like, I'm like, why try and like figure out all the nitty
Hmm.
gritty minutia unless that like really fascinates you and you want to like know. But I just feel like it's not something that we probably could comprehend or like really understand. And then trying to like take again, I feel like very, whether that be like kind of like I don't know how to put this. Very like, again, like intangible things I say into like human language.
Mm.
I feel like things just get distorted very easily.
They
It's
do.
just like, how can we, that I really believe this like language is like limiting. It can't really capture and describe everything experientially.
Mm.
So that's like kind of like my thoughts to that part. And the part about the aliens, um, I don't know. I feel like I think that there could be some form of like life forms out there. I don't know what that looks like, what that is. Is it other human like forms? Is it other animals? Who knows? We don't know. Um, but I don't think that means that there's not. I'm not gonna be like aliens aren't real, they don't exist. I think again we have a very like narrow focus of like what an alien is and what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
So in that point I don't really know. I feel like for me time also weirdly plays a part in this and the way that we view and experience time. Like people
Mm-hmm.
say we like experience it very linearly,
Mm-hmm.
but like time to me is a made up construct. It doesn't really exist kind of in a way. And I like to try and I've been trying to think about time and these things in like a cyclical or like
Mm.
non-linear way. So it's like maybe like they are a part of this like rapture, or maybe it is in a way where it's just like we can't really like physically understand or experience it happening. Like it's not like, oh, maybe it's like what we might think might be all at the same time. It could be happening not there, but like, if you think about like distance and time and space, just like it takes years or something what to get out to like another planet or something. So I don't really know like how really to like think about if that were to happen like simultaneously, like what does that actually practically
Mm.
look
Look like.
like. So I don't know, but it does like interest me and fascinate me. I am curious. Like I asked this question to my dad, but he didn't really give me an answer. But I like to think about like I feel like we think about God, religion, whatever, from kind of a POV of like ourselves
Mm.
and like our feelings in relationship to it. But I don't really haven't really read or like heard a lot about thinking about from like the POV of God or like a
Mm.
deity in general. Like I asked my dad, I was like, like what was like God thinking about like before like the creation of humans or like the planet? Was he just like, yeah, like I'm gonna like make a universe today. Like let's throw some people on it. Like let's see what happens. Like I try and like I feel like I don't know. I feel like we have this like view sometimes of God of like there's so many views of like God or like God's character, like
Mm-hmm.
this perfect being or this like all seeing being, like very like Scott knows everything. And to me, I like want to really look at it and question like, what does that actually mean? I feel like people say like, oh, like God's like all knowing or like, but it's like, is that like kind of just our like language or like use of like trying
Mm.
to ascribe a characteristic onto God? Does it mean actually what like we like know those words or things to mean? And so to me I want to like try and think about God's POV of like I don't know, like they're just a deity, like they're making things and experience, like I don't know, like what's that like. I'm just very curious, like what is that like, what's that like I'm just like here like because it's like we have this like understanding of like the creation story or like when the universe was created until now, but like what about prior or
Mm-hmm.
before? But then that gets into the whole like time thing and linearity and just like, well, maybe just like it was just always like it's a very like hard thing to like wrap your brain around. And oh wait, but you haven't finished Pantheon yet. You have to finish
Don't
it. I feel
spoil it.
like I'm not spoiling it, but
Okay.
I would say that the ending really like is where some of this line of thought kind of comes from
Okay.
too. And I like, yeah, so it just like makes me like think like, I don't know, like maybe like it's happened already, it's happening now. Like I can't really, I don't know. But
Hard to say.
the world in America, and I'm sure in other parts of the world, is bleak in different ways, and it would make
Yeah.
one think, oh man, is it time?
It's time
So
to be
yeah,
alive.
those are my thoughts, at least to those
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your
questions.
thoughts.
Yeah.
Jean Marie, do you have mm, anything to say to the world? You know, this is your very small platform.
My small platform. I don't know. I guess like for me, all in all, like relation to faith journey, I think
Mm,
the biggest thing has been about being curious before judgment.
mm.
And like I find that like when you're curious, like you learn all kinds of things, and like that's like I feel like that's all like one can do. Um I don't know. That's just,
Yeah.
I feel like that's like a summary of like what the journey has been, especially since college.
I mean, I like what you're saying. I feel like one of the things that I've always enjoyed about you, and when we were in person, I think we were a lot more like argumentative, for
Yes.
just for the fun of it, you know. And but something I always enjoyed about you is like I feel like that you are a very curious person, and we can disagree. It doesn't really matter. I feel like yeah, you always like to question things in your own ways, and we might not arrive at the same answer, but we might ask the same question, you know. Um, so yeah,
I think
S-
that's the fun thing. It should be fun. I feel like when
I
people are
agree.
curious, things are fun. It's like, oh my gosh, like, wait, how did you get that from that? Like, tell me more about that. Like, I might not agree with it, but you don't have to.
Exactly.
I don't know. I get like really frustrated over these things, like, and over like the simplest things too. People are just like
Just have a
too
conversation.
much.
It's okay.
But yeah.
But yeah, so Sean Marie, thank you so much for coming on,
Of course,
sitting with
thanks for
Sam.
having me on your podcast. I feel so honored. I was like, when they said, I was
You
like,
should
man,
be.
like, will they ask me to be on it? I was like, I don't know if I'm like cool.
You made it.
But yeah, oh, it's been great.
Yeah, you got any plans to like tonight? Because for you, it's still somewhat early, yeah? Or you got to work
Oh,
tomorrow?
I do have to work
Okay.
tomorrow, but the new season of Love is Blind is out.
Ooh.
I don't know if you're a big. I'm not like, oh my gosh, like greatest show ever. It's more of something I do with my roommates, and we kind of just laugh or be like, where did they find these
It's a
people?
guilty pleasure. That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're watching the rest of those episodes tonight, and it's the
Sweet.
birthday weekend this weekend. So birthday
Wait, is your
plans.
birthday weekend?
Yeah, it's on Monday, so I'm doing a lot of stuff this
It's
weekend.
definitely my calendar. Let me see. Yeah, it's actually on my calendar. Of course it is.
Yay! But yeah, that's kind
Okay.
of it. Well, I don't
Sweet.
want to keep you too
Well,
long.
thank you so much. And I hope you have a wonderful evening watching Love is Blind. Okay.
Thanks.
And I'm going to go sleep, but we'll talk soon.
Yes, yes, we should.
Okay. Namaste, my
Good
beautiful friend. Bye bye.
night.